Lauren had always been a lover of art. As a child, she spent hours in the local museum staring at the beautiful paintings and sculptures. As she grew older, her love of art only intensified, and she began traveling the world to see the great works in person. However, something strange began happening to her on her travels. Lauren began experiencing a powerful and overwhelming reaction to art, which left her dizzy, disoriented, and often unable to stand. It wasn't until years later that she discovered she had Stendhal Syndrome. Stendhal Syndrome, also known as hyperculturemia, is a rare condition that affects individuals who are exposed to large amounts of art. Symptoms of the syndrome include dizziness, rapid heartbeat, confusion, and in severe cases, hallucinations. The syndrome was named after the French author Stendhal, who famously experienced a similar reaction while visiting the Basilica of Santa Croce in Florence. Lauren's first experience with Stendhal syndrome happened in Paris. She was standing in front of the Mona Lisa, mesmerized by the painting's beauty, when suddenly she felt a wave of dizziness wash over her. The feeling was so intense that she had to sit down on the floor, feeling embarrassed and confused. She tried to shake it off, but the feeling persisted for hours, leaving her feeling weak and unwell. After that first episode, Lauren began to experience the same reaction every time she looked at a work of art that she found particularly beautiful or moving. She tried to ignore it, but the symptoms only worsened. Eventually, she became so afraid of experiencing the syndrome that she stopped visiting museums altogether. It wasn't until years later that Lauren discovered what was wrong with her. She had been experiencing the symptoms of Stendhal syndrome for so long that she had begun to accept them as a part of her life. But then, while browsing the internet one day, she came across an article about the condition. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. She realized that she wasn't alone, that there were other people out there who had experienced the same thing. Lauren decided to seek help, and she began researching the best treatments for Stendhal syndrome. She discovered that there was no cure for the condition, but that there were certain things she could do to manage the symptoms. For example, she learned that it was important to take breaks when visiting museums or other places with a lot of art. She also learned that certain medications could help to reduce the severity of the symptoms. With this newfound knowledge, Lauren began to venture back into the world of art. She visited museums with caution, taking breaks whenever she felt the symptoms coming on. At first, it was difficult, and she felt anxious and uncertain. But as time went on, she began to feel more confident. She found that the more she exposed herself to art, the less severe her symptoms became. One day, Lauren decided to visit the Louvre in Paris. She was nervous, but she had prepared herself as best she could. She wore comfortable shoes and carried a bottle of water with her. She also made sure to take breaks every half hour or so. As she walked through the museum, Lauren felt her heart race with excitement. She saw paintings and sculptures that she had only ever dreamed of seeing in person, and each one left her feeling more inspired than the last. But as she approached a painting by Monet, she felt the familiar wave of dizziness wash over her. She sat down on a nearby bench, feeling frustrated and disappointed. But then, something miraculous happened. A woman approached her and asked if she was okay. Lauren explained that she had Stendhal syndrome and that she often experienced these symptoms when looking at art. To her surprise, the woman nodded in sympathy. She was a doctor familiar with Stendhal syndrome. One of the most important things the doctor advised was to take breaks during her visits to museums or galleries. Lauren had always been so passionate about art that she would often spend hours on end walking through exhibits, but this was no longer possible. The doctor suggested that she take breaks every 30 minutes or so, giving her body and mind a chance to rest and recover. Another key aspect of Lauren's treatment was the use of medication. The doctor prescribed a beta blocker, which helped to reduce the intensity of the symptoms. Lauren was initially hesitant about taking medication, but after a few weeks, she began to notice a significant improvement in her symptoms. With the help of her doctor and medication, Lauren felt more confident in her ability to manage her Stendhal syndrome. She decided to start visiting museums and galleries again, but this time she was more mindful of her limits. She made sure to take regular breaks and carried a bottle of water with her to stay hydrated. As she explored the world of art once more, Lauren found that she was able to appreciate it in a new way. She had always been passionate about art, but now she felt a deeper connection to it. She was able to take her time and savor each piece, knowing that she could manage her symptoms if they became too intense. Over time, Lauren's Stendhal syndrome began to affect her less and less. She found that the combination of medication and breaks was an effective way to manage the condition, and she felt confident in her ability to continue to explore the world of art. Lauren's journey was not an easy one, but it taught her the importance of taking care of herself and listening to her body. She learned that her love of art was worth fighting for, and that with the right treatment, she could continue to experience its wonders. In the end, she felt grateful for the journey, as it had given her a new appreciation for life and all of its beauty.